Welcome, everybody. This is the very first podcast here for McEwan's Matt-ness. Wanted to do this for a while and just haven't had the chance to get around to it. And finally, I have a guest who can come on with me here and help me out. Chris McKee. He is the Durham College basketball and volleyball play-by-play announcer. We actually had the pleasure of doing a game together, and he's going to be our college sports expert. So, Chris, welcome on. I'm happy to have you here. Thanks for coming.
Awesome, thanks for having me, Matt.
So, Chris, we've talked a little bit. We're gonna do March Madness. It's the big ticket right now. Tournament starts Thursday at noon. Let's dive right into this. I mean, 2015-2016 season has had just an unbelievable amount of parity. I mean, normally in every other year you see at least one team who's the talk of the country, who's at least doing some. You know, last year was Kentucky. They went, I think, 38-1. But this year there really hasn't been a dominant team that's, held that title.
Yeah, it is. It's one of those weird years, and, I think it makes for a better story when you do have that Kentucky team. Everybody wants to slay Goliath.
Yeah.
Well, there is no Goliath this year. There's a lot of Davids, which also adds, a different storyline to it because I think there's more hope, and it's, there's your Kansases and North Carolinas and Michigan States and, these kind of teams. But I think, it gives some of these smaller schools a little bit of hope that maybe they can be that next George Mason or Butler, this year.
It does, absolutely. And you know what? We've yet to see a 16 seed win. And if there's ever going to be a year, I think this may be the closest to 16 may come to upsetting a 1. Especially, in my opinion, I don't think Oregon's that strong. I personally was a believer that Michigan State should have been a 1 seed. I actually didn't even think they'd have to win the conference tournament to get a 1 seed. I thought just as long as they made it to the finals, that would be it. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. I thought Michigan State was a 1. I watched, half a dozen games this year. Mm-hmm. It's a real complete team. How can you count out, Tom Izzo come March? He's always got his troops ready.
Yep.
And I think there was a lot of teams. This was the one year that I think, the committee got a lot of the seeding wrong. Look and see Seton Hall at a 6.
Yeah.
This is a team that was in the top 5 in the country earlier this year,
yeah,
and just won the Big East, and they're coming in as a 6. Michigan, not getting, Michigan State, as a 2. It is a bizarre year, and then Oregon getting 1. I think that was more just a TV play,
yeah,
to make sure at least the West Coast side of the country felt a little bit of love. And I think Oregon was definitely sort of a beneficiary of that.
I agree. I totally agree with you. So let's dive into this tournament then. Talking about the parity, talking about all these small schools having a chance. Throw me some of your bracket busters here in the first round. Some of these big upsets that you see happening.
Well, I got a couple. I really like Little Rock knocking off Purdue in the first round. Little Rock comes in 29-4.
Yep.
And yeah, hey, I know they're not in a big conference and that, but you win 29 games, you only lose four all year. You're a pretty good basketball team.
Absolutely.
And so, it's one of those things. It's like they could get hot, and Purdue. I watched a little bit of them. This year, I saw them in the Big Ten tournament last weekend, and they're looking a little gassed, and they're just missing that, that little something, that spark. And I think Little Rock could be a one team that can do that. And then the team that I really love is Stephen F. Austin.
Yeah, you're saying.
I have them knocking off West Virginia. You look at their stats; they're either first or second in the country in defensive turnovers.
Yep.
They score a lot of points in a game. I think they're averaging about 78 points a game, and that's a team that they can create turnovers defensively and they can shoot. And so if lightning strikes, I think they've got a good shot at not even just getting by West Virginia in the first round, getting by who it's going to be Michigan or Notre Dame in that next game. And I can see them getting into that 16.
I agree with you there on SF Austin. I don't think Notre Dame's that strong if they do get past West Virginia, but it is that Bobby Huggins team, that high pressure defense that they've got to deal with first. That'll definitely be a tough task, but I agree with you there. I think they're up for it. In terms of your Little Rock pick, I hope you're wrong there, Chris. I gotta say, I've got Purdue making some noise in my bracket, but I couldn't agree more with you about what you say. you win that many games as Little Rock there, you're a good basketball team. They are a good basketball team. I'm hoping Purdue's size can come through for them, but you know, hey, what do I know, right? What do we all know when it comes to March Madness?
Unless I see, you know, the big dog Glenn Robinson throwing on a Purdue jersey, I'm not holding out a lot of hope for them.
I respect your opinion, absolutely. Now, here's one of my upsets here, Chris, and I want you to tell me whether I'm crazy or not. I've got Hawaii beating California.
No, I like that. You know, Cal just fired their assistant coach. There's a little bit of turmoil going on in the program. Yeah, they got a couple good freshman guards that are athletes, but you know, when there's that sort of cloud hanging over the program like there is right now, I think it can cause distractions, you know, especially at this time. Keep in mind, you know, they are a young team. They got great athletes, but they're really young.
They
and
are
so
really young,
Hawaii comes in, nothing to lose. It's not, you know, you're definitely not crazy. I think they got to look at it.
For sure, and you know, you mentioned, you know, Hawaii did everything that they needed to do. They're 27-5. They won the Big West regular season and the tournament championships. You know, they play good defense. You know, I think they have what it takes. You know, basketball is not, you know, Cal's been called maybe the most talented team in the tournament, but that's really riding on one or two players, in my opinion. And, you know, basketball's not won by one or two players. So, hey, I hope it comes through for me. Last team I want to talk about here, specifically, actually, from just watching the game last night. Should teams be fearing Wichita State right now? You know, I watched that game last night, and in my opinion, the last thing Arizona wanted to see was Fred VanVleet and Ron Baker start heating up. And, you know, that's exactly what they did. Is Arizona in trouble? And not only Arizona, but, you know, potentially Miami, potentially Villanova. How much noise can Wichita State make in this tournament?
I think they can. You know, keep in mind they have experience. This is a team that's made it, you know, a Final Four run. I'm going to say 2013, and I know the two guards that were on that team are still there. They're running the show now, so they've got the experience. You know, the moment isn't going to be too big for them. And, you know, I know they were decimated by injuries earlier on in the season, and they got out the gates really slow, but they're getting healthier at the right time, and they're getting hot at the right time. So, I mean, I think definitely they can get through that first round against Arizona. And I'm not a big fan of Miami, so if they can get past Arizona, I think that's going to be their bigger task than the U. And so, hey, that's it. If they can get through Zona, they've got a good look at making a decent run.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more with you there. Now let's talk here. You know, everyone. You know, the biggest thing is who's the first number one that's going to fall. In your opinion, who do you think that is?
Oregon. They'll go down to Duke. I think they get through a round or two, but eventually they're going to have to run into Duke.
Yep.
And you know, the Dukies. It's just a gut feeling with the Dukies. You know, whenever they have the villain on their team, you know, in Grayson Allen is that guy. He's the new Christian Laettner that everyone just loves to hate. For some reason, that seems to motivate, you know, the Dukies. And whenever the whole world's against them, they get red hot. And so it's just a gut feeling that I think, you know, they love being the villain. And, you know, TV loves when they're the villain. And it's gonna give them a chance to kind of make a good run.
For sure, and you know, you add in Brandon Ingram, who very well may be the number one pick in the NBA draft this year, along with, of course, they've got a Plumlee. You know, it just seems to be Plumlees are always at Duke. I absolutely think they're a tough team, and here's what I'm thinking though. I don't know if Oregon even makes it to Duke. Once again, tell me I'm crazy. Tell me I'm not crazy here. Does St. Joe's have a chance of knocking off Oregon?
Yes. You know, I absolutely. I mean, I've got St. Joe's taking out Cincinnati in the first round, so it's going to make for an interesting matchup. And yeah, you know, I'm not sold on Oregon either.
Me neither, no.
It's one of those teams. I think for me, they're more realistically like a 3 or 4 talent-wise.
I agree with you. Yeah.
It's just, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, and what is Oregon's basketball history? They don't have one, and so until they prove they can be an elite program in March, I'm still not going to buy it.
No, I totally agree with you. I love the way you know, the way St. Joe's played in that their conference tournament there, winning it, you know, handily, and I think they're the team to knock off Oregon. And I agree. I think Oregon's the first team to fall anyways. One more team actually that I wanted to get into here before we move on. Texas. Everyone knows Shaka Smart from his VCU days, from VCU upsetting, making tournament runs. Can Shaka Smart do that right now with Texas?
I think they get through the first round past a tough Northern Iowa team. That's a good ball club, Northern Iowa. They've had some success kind of over the past 3 or 4 years. I think he gets past that, but I love Texas A&M to knock them off. A&M is one of the better teams I've seen all year. Yeah. I mean, they just went down to a red-hot Kentucky in the SEC tournament, but it's just I don't know. I think Shaka hasn't been there long enough. He doesn't have his horses yet.
Yeah.
What has he got? 1, 2 recruiting classes. I think he needs another year or two before he fully puts his sort of imprint on the mark in Texas and really makes a run. But he did a wonderful job at VCU over the past couple of years and had a couple Sweet 16 runs with them and definitely left them in a good position. I caught a few games of them earlier this year. Mm-hmm. Still a pretty decent team, but I still don't believe he's got the horses yet to make a big run. And I think the A&M thing is too much of a task for them to overcome.
I agree with you. I totally agree with you there. When they run into A&M, like you said, Northern Iowa's a great team as well. But I don't think they have it yet to take down Texas A&M. So
I think at this time next year it'll be a different situation.
I agree with you. I agree. When he has his guys and his system is fully implemented, that's gonna be a tough team. That was always VCU's thing under Shaka Smart was they played unbelievable defense, but they just lacked that scoring, that natural talent, right? And Texas being a bigger program, they can bring in those big time scores. So I agree with you there. Now, moving on here, we talked about your bracket busters here. You said you really like SF Austin. Is SF Austin, do they have what it takes to get to the Sweet 16 or no? And if not, who is the lowest seed in your opinion that can make the Sweet 16?
Oh, I definitely think Stephen F. Austin, they can make a run. I've got them getting out there. Sometimes you just got to go with gut when you're picking your brackets are there. And also, I like Arizona as a 6th seed getting definitely into that Elite 8 even as well, making a good run.
Oh, wow.
Little Rock, like I said, another team possibly getting there, but I think eventually they'll run out of gas. But I think it's the farthest they can go. I would probably go Arizona as a 6 is my team that I have kind of making a pretty good run. I think Kansas will eventually get them.
Yeah.
But they've got the potential to make a good run.
Okay, so let's talk your Final Four then here. Who you got coming out of each region?
You know what? I went very traditional. I didn't take too many risks because when it comes down to it, I believe talent and history and good coaching. So I've got Kansas, Duke, North Carolina, and Michigan State with the Tar Heels versus the Dukies in a final, and the Tar Heels are gonna win it all. I've got.
I promise that we didn't set this up at all. That's actually my exact Final Four.
Is it really? Yeah.
That's
See,
funny.
that great minds think alike, Matt. You gotta love that. Yeah.
I like to think so, anyways. But I totally agree with you there. You know what? I think Kansas has Kansas and North Carolina. I think have the talent to get there. And when I look at their roots there, for Kansas, starting with Kansas, I think their biggest challenge comes with if Cal can make it through and they can get it together. Cal's got a ton of talent, but the team I actually fear for Kansas is Maryland, and Maryland is right now they're running off whether or not Melo Trimble can get back to his old ways. He hasn't really been himself late in the season, and big reason why they didn't end up going further in the conference tournament. But I think Maryland presents a big challenge for Kansas. Other than that, though, I don't really see any other top groups that they're going to face. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, when you got a pro player on your team, you're definitely going to have a chance to kind of make a run. And Melo's that guy.
Yeah.
He's the guy that's going to be playing for a paycheck next year.
Yeah.
And, when you've got that going up against, schools like South Dakota State and, and even Cal and that. But the one thing that concerns me is, Maryland's backing into the tournament. I think they've lost 3 of the last 4. I'm going to say.
Yep.
You know, they're getting cold at a time when it's not appropriate, and that's one major thing that concerns me moving forward in the tournament. Is you know, you look at the teams like I said, Kentucky and that they're getting Duke, they're getting hot right at the right time, and Maryland is the exact opposite of that. So that concerns me.
I agree. So let's look in North Carolina. What scares me is Kentucky.
Absolutely, yeah.
Jamal Murray has morphed into right now one of the best players in the country. I know he started the season off. He was struggling a little bit. Coach Calipari was pretty critical of him. You know, he kept talking about Jamal Murray making things harder than they had to be, and trying to get him to just make the easy play. And it looks like Jamal Murray's finally doing that. And I really hope both teams get through, because I would love to see that North Carolina-Kentucky matchup.
Oh, I mean, it's unbelievable. I've got that in my bracket happening. I mean, you look at Kentucky, what Calipari does every year, and, people say, oh, hey, you've got all these McDonald's All-American and these blue chippers, that's easy. Well, reloading every year and bringing that in and getting them to play in unison, that's one thing that was great about Kentucky last year. All these NBA players essentially, but all playing as a team unit. Guys going there and giving up points and giving up minutes that they would have at other schools to be a part of something special and try to win. Now, hey, it didn't work out. They lost the one game that really mattered.
Yeah.
But, then he goes and reloads, brings in all these new kids, and sometimes it takes time for them to gel. They're 18, 19-year-old kids, and they've been the big dog, their whole lives in their AAU programs and their high schools, and now they got to come play in part of a team sort of situation.
Yeah.
And a lot of them just aren't used to that. I think Jamal has, obviously him playing for Canada in the summer, in the Pan Ams and learning to be, more of a general, leading the team. That's really helped. But I think, I'm not sure it was more Jamal that was the issue. I think it was the other kids, and they've kind of just caught up to where he is right now. And they're really gelling as a team, and they're starting, they're hot at the. This is a team that was out of the top 25 a couple weeks ago, and now they just won the SEC tournament, and they're red hot. They're going to scare it. Nobody wants to play Kentucky.
I couldn't agree more with you there. Kentucky's a team that worries me, and I think, that's what scares me away from actually, having North Carolina in the finals, because I worry too much about that Kentucky matchup. Looking at Michigan State. What I'm hoping as well, here's the matchup that I hope ends up happening in the Midwest. Anyways, I'd love to see Utah and Michigan State.
That's exactly what I have. I think Utah's a heck of a basketball team.
Me too. And if they're in any other region, to be honest with you, I may have them. Like if they're in the West, I probably have them beating Duke.
Mm-hmm.
They're
like I said, I mean, that's a team. I've seen Utah play a couple games earlier this year, and seen the highlights and that. It's one of the best kept secrets in the tournament is that's a sneaky team right there. It's you want to look at someone that can really cause some damage out of nowhere. There's Utah.
Absolutely, and that could really shake things up if they decide to, because I know I've got Michigan State going pretty far, so a loss there would be huge. Looking to the West now, we both got Duke going through. The team that I actually worry most isn't Oregon, isn't I have a hard time saying it's not Texas A&M, because I do fear Texas A&M, but early on Baylor. I think Baylor, especially Duke's not a team that wants to get into a track meet right now, and I think Baylor can run them up and down the floor and really give them a game.
Yeah, Baylor's got the horses. I've seen them play a few games this year. They're one of those. It's weird. I saw them play early in the season. You're like, this is one of the best teams in the country. And you see them a few weeks later, and I think dogged a little bit by inconsistency.
Yeah.
They've got the athletes. They've definitely got the horses. It's can they get it together at the right time?
For sure.
And so, and that's the thing. It's like, what is Baylor's history in this tournament?
Yeah.
I think it's always important to look at. It's like, what do they have to sort of draw on, and what success?
Yep, 100%. I agree with you there. Talking about Baylor there, they did play the toughest schedule this year of the entire NCAA. And like you said though, I think it does. I too often pick coaches. That's my go-to. I'm often actually picking the coach instead of the school, and when it comes to Coach K, it's hard to go against them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's get we've got our Final Four. Who's your champion then?
I like the Tar Heels.
Yeah.
Yeah. Staying with the Heels.
Okay. Who they beating in the finals?
The Blue Devils.
Yeah?
Thankfully.
Hey, that'd be quite the matchup, right? A lot of history between those two schools there.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched them play a couple times in the past few weeks, and it's great basketball. I think it'd be great for the tournament if you ended up seeing those two, because it's not too often that they do get to match up against each other, and I think that would just make for a good story. And don't get it twisted. You're telling me, CBS and TV wouldn't want to see that, and so sometimes you think calls may get slanted in that direction. So.
Yeah, no, that's definitely it's something we've seen before, right? Knowing basketball, thanks to Mr. Donaghy, we know that is possible. In terms of my championship, Chris, I'm actually going the opposite way. I'm going Michigan State over Kansas. So we do differ somewhere. I'm happy to see that. We'll. What do you think North Carolina has that why are they going to beat Michigan State?
It's just the blue chippers. It's just the McDonald's All-American kids. There's just too many of them. And I think they had such a disappointment last year, and it was just a good returning group of guys that kind of dropped the ball last year, and I think they're hungry, and I just think they've just got something about them that I like this year for some reason. It's I've been a Carolina fan for going back to Rick Fox days, kind of in the late '80s. So there's just a little something different about the Heels this year than last year that I like the cut of their jib, shall we say? Yeah.
Hey, you know what? I'm siding with Michigan State there. I think Denzel Valentine's been one of the best players in the country this year. When it comes to picking like an MVP or something, I looked I don't know if there's a player that's meant more to his team than Valentine has. You look at the time he was out, and that's where the majority of Michigan State's losses came. You add in Matt Costello to that lineup, and I think Michigan State can do it all. They can defend, and as you mentioned earlier, it's tough to go against Izzo, right? Mm-hmm. So why then Duke over Kansas for you? I know you said
Kansas has just let me down so many times over the years, and so again, it's just more of a gut thing. Like I said, I mean, I love them in Kansas. I love their size, athleticism. They got a deep team, and it's just more of me going on history of how many times Kansas has let me down over the years.
Well, I believe early exits in the last two tournaments now.
Yeah.
So, of course. Hey,
and here's something to think about, though, Matt. Think about what that Kansas team would be if there wasn't this one-and-done nonsense. We'd be talking about Andrew Wiggins and Joel Embiid and, and how much more exciting this tournament would be if, basketball gets to where it used to be back in the 90s, and that when, guys played till their junior and senior season.
I agree with you. That's a great point there. You look at football, and I don't know why, they aren't the role model here. I think they've got it right. You force them to go to school for a few years before they can declare eligible. I mean, it's, not to stray too far into this issue here, but it is an issue where, a lot of these kids are coming out uneducated, right? What are you really taking in your freshman year of college, university, right? And to add it, back to the tournament, it would be so much more exciting to see these seniors, these 21, 22-year-old men going at it, and instead of it being the 17, 18-year-olds who, aren't used to the spotlight. You see, very often these top seeds fall for exactly that reason. They can't handle the spotlight, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk about Anthony Bennett, hey.
Yeah, absolutely. And, a crazy story with him. He's trying to get his career back on track, but, we'll see what happens with him.
Mm-hmm. It's just they don't learn the game right. They can't play with their back to the basket. They don't know how to play defense. They don't have a 22-foot jump shot. It's all just, Zach LaVine where, they can run and dunk, and it looks great on ESPN for 2 seconds. But as far as actually knowing how to play basketball, it's a little sloppy these days, you know.
Absolutely, they can't make that transition to the NBA as easily anymore, right? They've too often they're sitting on the bench for a year, maybe 2 years, learning the game, right? So.
But hey, that being said, I'm not going to be thinking too much about that, you know, starting tomorrow and for the next couple of weeks. I'm just going to sit back, relax, and enjoy the action. Right?
Hey, I agree with you. Now, I'm going to start the petition here because I know it's heating up in the U.S. where the first 2 days of this tournament should be holidays. Am I right?
Oh hell yeah! You know, and I'm so frustrated because I want to go out and enjoy the games and have a pop and watch it, but I got a class at 8 a.m. on Friday morning, and so it really wrecks my soul that I won't be able to enjoy some of those night games.
Hey, I totally agree with you. You know, we've got to do something here, Chris, and maybe we got to step up and get something going.
I think Trudeau, him and Obama seem to be in bed right now, and Obama's always filling out his bracket, so I think if we're ever going to make it happen, now's about as good as time. You know, he may want to do it just to be in agreement with Obama. So let's go.
Time is now, Chris. The time is now. Well, hey, Chris, I really appreciate you coming on. We'll have to get a little friendly wager going here for the Final Four, especially where we really differ. But thank you again. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I know we'll have you on again pretty soon when we get a little closer to the NFL draft, anyways. But maybe we'll come back. We'll talk some Raptors soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Matt.
All right. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. And you have yourself a great evening.
You too, man. Peace.
Once again, Chris McKee, good friend of mine, great guy, knows far more than I do about college sports, that's for sure. Honored to have him on. I hope you guys enjoyed this first one. I'd love to hear your feedback. I know I've started up my March Madness pool, and I think many of my viewers are in it. So look forward to competing with you, and I hope everyone enjoys it. Have a good night, everybody.